and the recording is now operational. So let me first welcome you. And this is Kisha Brown of Justis Connection, so graciously speaking with us at the second version of Adapt, Create, and Innovate, or ACI. I'm Chris Bennett, the founder of TIL, and I'm going to ask Kisha as an opening question if she could summarize for us what her journey of adapting, creating, and innovating has been like in 2 minutes or less. So Kisha, welcome, and can you take that challenge?
Yeah, thanks, Chris. I really appreciate you first conducting this series, and second for asking me to be a part of it. It's a great pleasure. Happy to share with the audience around my experience of adapting, creating, and innovating. I love the fact that adapting is the first word, right, that you use, because a big part of this is being adaptable, right? Oftentimes we can have a vision, we can have a timeline, we can have sort of our set mark that we're ready to move forward with, but in the journey, it's all about adapting, right? And it's all about being able to allow your vision to not necessarily be morphed, but to adapt to the changing circumstances that it finds itself, that you find yourself in. And that can be a beautiful thing if we allow it to happen, right? And so for me, my journey started really from a place of excluding all other options, right? I was sparked after I left my last employer, and it was a hostile work environment. And when I left there, I drove away and was like, good riddance to you. And I swear, for me, I'm a spiritual person. And probably for one of the most clearest times in my life, I heard God say, are you ready?
Okay.
Right. And I knew exactly what that are you ready was about. And I was like, let's do it. Right. And then I began the journey of really figuring out what this looked like. What was Justis Connection? What was it that this experience that I had, this vision around, for me, being an advocate on behalf of people, especially who look like me, has been, something that's always been ingrained inside of me. So how was that to manifest, right? And I didn't really know where or how to start. I didn't know the workshops to go to, the accelerators that everybody was going to, or the venture capitalists to talk to, but really just started really basic, and one of my first conversations ended up being with a Black lawyer in Baltimore who I'd met maybe a year before at an event, and he put something on LinkedIn that said he was leaving his firm and doing something in tech and, starting something new. And I was like, oh, well, wow, he's doing something different. Let me reach out to him and maybe he'd be willing to share a little bit and talk with me. And so we met, and instantly he was like, you're creating a legal tech company. And I was like, I am? Excellent, right? And so that's really began sort of, I like that story to really, for me, it marks sort of that sort of being able to name it a little bit, being able to attach my idea to something that really was around innovation, right? And not just an idea. And I think that oftentimes when we, as people who have especially worked your entire life, whether you're a lawyer or a waitress or esthetician or a teacher, we often don't recognize that our ideas, right, are the pathway to an innovation. And so for me, that conversation made that connection.
Oh, Kisha, I have to thank you for that. That's almost a perfect segue into the description of the purpose for this series, which is, first of all, let me just send a shout out of respect to all the first responders and the healthcare workers who are helping us to work through this pandemic. But it's an external factor that's causing change. And we have sympathy and condolences for the loss of life and the suffering And we also recognize we have to take the energy from that situation and try to redirect some of it into preparing the world to be a better place as we go through this. And you just summarized the gist of the series, where you overcame a significant life-changing event. You took that energy and channeled it into something that is now Justis Connection. So thank you for that segue. And
Cool.
that leads us to the next question, which is, having gone through that experience, what has been your most outrageously creative moment in the whole process of your life so far?
Yeah, my most outrageous creative moment. So when I initially, was thinking about that question, it makes you think that like that creativity has to like compare with, I don't know, drawing the Mona Lisa, right? Where you're like, bam, this is it, I have done it. And the reality is as I learn technology more and more, because that's not my original bandwidth, is not really the tech field. I find myself, for me, when I make connections with certain, like when I make connections in technology, I'm impressed myself that I have actually done something, right? And been able to put something forth that to me, I only thought others could do and that I couldn't. So the creativity of being able to utilize technology in a way that brings my vision to life, for me feels outrageous, right? It feels like this new frontier that makes the process that much more like believable.
Well, you've definitely captured and add tremendous value, because I'm a nerd that my mom accused me of being a solution looking for a problem at age 5. So I assume that outrageous moments are just that, some world-changing epiphany. And I think you put it in a more realistic perspective, which is that it's actually quite relevant and relative. So with that said, you set the stage for me asking the next question, which is, who are you? And what is Justis Connection all about?
Yeah, I am a Black woman on a mission to bring greater justice to all, primarily people who look like me, right? And I am very clear in my vision around the purpose of Justis Connection: to enrich lawyers of color, namely Black lawyers in particular, and to educate and empower Black people in particular. We have long been the bearers of the harshest stick and the biggest burden when it comes to the justice system. From the beginning of the justice system, or the criminal system, you could say, the court system in this country. And when you know the foundation of the court system in this country, and the justice system in this country, you recognize that the road that Black people have traveled has been one very low lows, right? With strategic peace, right? When we have made advancements, we have been very clear and very strategic about them. They didn't happen by happenstance, and they didn't happen by, the grace of somebody else. They happened because we were determined, strategic, and fought for them. And so as we look at what does America look like, first in America, but what does sort of justice look like for us? And really being able to personalize that in a way that we as Black people, I think, have always just defaulted. We get what we get. I hope nothing happens today, or I hope shit don't hit the fan, right? Because you don't know what would be your recourse. Where would you go? I liken to say that no matter what our personal net worth income is, we have less access to legal resources than our white counterparts. So whether you're living in the projects or penthouse, please believe your white equivalent has greater access to justice than you do. And that changes everything about how we show up and how we participate in American life. And so by having greater access to justice, greater access to legal counsel and advice, how do we get to show up in the world more confident, more sure, more firm in the fact that we have a fighting chance? And I think that when Black lawyers are empowered, when we are more visible in our communities, right, we need to be the subject matter experts that we are, more prevalent. We should be on every corner, every church, every conference call, every social endeavor, should be able to call on a Black lawyer to be a part of their panel to share the good word of justice, whether that's in employment law, tax, criminal, mortgaging, housing, social justice, police brutality, we name it, right? Black people are recipients of it, and Black lawyers do it. And so how do we look at justice in a way that works for us and strategically move that agenda forward?
Well, thank you for that. And you've given us a little bit of a teaser, but take us a little deeper into what's the source of your innovation and inspiration, even deeper than what you just described?
Yeah, so at Justis Connection, we use technology to make the legal matchmaking process more efficient and effective. All of the legal referral services, if you will, on the market, one, they are dominated by white men, and two, they operate in quantity as opposed to quality. So if you put in whatever, name your city and your issue, which is usually the two markers they use, you get hundreds and hundreds of hits, right? And they have every lawyer, me, you, and our mamas are in that database, right? Because they operate in quantity. And for the average person, they don't need 521 choices, right? They need a couple of good choices that identify sort of based on their location, where they live, their issue, their budget, being able to connect with folks, being able to have some initial information to even engage with a lawyer. And so we use technology in order to make that connection more personal. And that's what people want. They want somebody who they can trust, and somebody who, quite frankly, gets it. And there's nobody who has greater cultural competency than another Black lawyer. I'm not saying all Black lawyers or everyone is going to be perfect for you. You still have to find that right fit for you, right? And what is the right fit for you is different for somebody else. But we handle all subject matters. We engage in all budgets. And we've gone to all of the different types of schools that there are, and all the different types of training and all the different types of experience that a lawyer can have. And so it's looking at sort of some of these models that are out there. You know, when you talk about being innovative, seeing what folks are doing, because right, half of innovation has already been done, you know, and seeing how we can do this different, or how we can do it better, and how we can do it particularly for our community. I haven't found a legal referral service yet, whether it's the big billboards you see, because those are a type of legal referral service to a certain degree, because those folks don't handle all of those cases. They usually farm them in, you know, they take them in and then farm them out to others that they can't, if they can't handle them. And where are we as Black lawyers in this mix? Right? Dominated by white men who don't hire us. They don't invest in our communities. They don't live in our communities. But you and I both know that you can find those billboards in our communities.
Understood.
Yeah.
Understood. And so I think, Kisha, you've given us a little teaser in perhaps some technology, whether it's rule-based matching or artificial intelligence, some pretty exciting secret sauce stuff. So how does that combine with your vision and kind of your mission to create value in your terms?
How does the technology connect with me creating value?
In your terms, yes, ma'am. And I'm a Southerner, you know, so I've been brainwashed by my mom to say ma'am and sir. So no comment on demographics. It's just yes, ma'am.
No, you're good. Look, I grew up partly down south in Georgia, so I've got a mix of my northern and my southern connections.
Okay. I'm with you.
Yeah. So, the technology piece of it really, I think it's very difficult to come up with something innovative at this day and age that doesn't have a technological component,
Mhm.
right? And I think even in this time where COVID-19 or the Rona, as some folks call it,
Okay,
right?
I hadn't heard that.
Oh yes,
Well,
the Rona. Get plugged in now, Chris. Get plugged in. Okay.
okay, I gotta stay fresh. I'm working on it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Kelsey's gonna help me, by the way, so we're good.
But in this day and age, I think we're finding that more, right? We are
Mhm.
being forced, as much as some jobs, never wanted to let anybody work from home. They fought teleworking like it was the age of the Jetsons,
Mhm.
And now folks are being forced to figure it out, right? And this is just the tip of the iceberg. I think once we start, we've now had to dive in, and it's
Mhm.
going to be hard to roll back this technology that most folks are now experiencing in a way that you become more and more comfortable as you experience it. The beginning, you might be like, oh Lord, how do I do this conference call? And you hear all of these, jokes about how people are all types of things going on behind them, right? When they're on
Mhm.
a conference call or they're not fully dressed and then they stand up and so you got all types of stuff. And
Right.
someone is going to have an aha moment
Mhm.
and be connected to that technology and create and
Mhm.
innovate and shift and build on.
Mhm.
Uh, and I think especially during this time when we're forced to be home, I know here in Maryland, our governor just announced today that we're at a stay put, stay in the house order.
Okay.
So that starts at 8 p.m. today, Monday, March.
Shelter in space. If I may just interject, so shelter in space starts in Maryland at 8 p.m. today.
They're not calling it shelter in space though. I mean shelter in place. That's not what they're calling it. They're calling it stay in, I don't want to say stay put kizzy. It's called stay home.
Okay.
Stay home directive. So that's
All
what
right.
they're, everybody's got a different twist on it.
A little bit.
Yeah, which state by state, we have no federal leadership, right? So state by state, everybody is making its own rules. And I think that also leads to innovation, right? Because what we're doing in Maryland, different than what they're doing in California. It's different what they're doing in Virginia. DC did that a couple, days ago. Atlanta's got something different than the whole state of Georgia. So it be creative.
Mhm.
And it'll be really interesting to see what comes out of all of this time period. We were just, I think the federal order was, hey, let's keep things in place until April 30th. So
Mhm.
we know we have at least a month ahead of us of sort of what we're experiencing now, at the very least, if not probably going even deeper. And
Mhm.
that's when the juices get flowing, right? And
Right.
that's when people under pressure start to really come up with something new, something innovative. Hopefully we won't spend all of our time Netflix and chilling. We'll spend some time innovating as well.
Well, I will shamelessly say I think you're exactly right on that, and it brings to mind a statement that I've heard was attributed to um, former Chicago mayor and former congressman and former Obama administration chief of staff, Rahm Emanuel, who supposedly said, never let a good crisis go to waste. And the context of that was that is an opportunity to help people achieve change because they're now required to do it and motivated to do it. So
Yeah, I think
with
I like
that,
your interpretation of it. I don't know if that's Rom's interpretation, but I like yours.
I'm trying to be diplomatic and kind because I wasn't in the room when it happened, to borrow a phrase. The, but the setup for that is something that you stated and alluded to, which is now there's probably an openness to innovations like Justis Connection, as well as what TIL is doing, and also I think hundreds of entrepreneurs of color and entrepreneurs in general, with which I've interacted. And so with that stage being set, what do you see as being next uh, for the market in general and for Justis Connection in particular? What's next in your vision?
That's a great question. Um, what's next? I think that, so as a early stage startup,
Mhm.
um, one of the things that I find myself having to do is um, almost temper what's next, because I got a million what's next on the on the top of your head that all want to get prominent play, as far as your priority. And as an early stage company, I think one of the most important things is to be really clear about what your priorities are, um, formulate why, as how they connect to your business plan, your business model, revenue generation, or value given to your consumers, and sticking to those, right? Being able to be, I think, adaptable, right? But also know who your core is. So that if you're adapting still to your core audience and not going off on the tangent that you think might be the popular play.
Right.
And what the popular play is for one may not be the popular play for others.
Mhm.
And for me, it's being okay with not being able to do everything, right? Because just because, and this probably may sound like I'm contradicting my first comment around your ideas, but
Mhm.
just because you have a new idea doesn't mean that's an idea that you should now shift your energy, your time, your resources, your finances into. You've got to be really thoughtful, I think, as a early stage company, with limited time, limited finances, and so forth, on what you're going to spend your energy on. And even though we've got more time, it may seem like being home, um, we still want to be thoughtful about how we execute our dream, how we execute our vision. There are so many companies that don't make it for the long run. And I think being disciplined is a really important part of staying the course.
Well, thank you for that. And that's a great, I think, a segue into our final question segment, which is, it's the open-ended question. Any parting words of wisdom or sharing for the audience as we move toward a journey?
I would say give yourself permission to explore your ideas and give them the time and attention that they need. So often you can hear about folks say they have an idea, or they have an innovation, or they have something that they thought of or worked on for a while. But
Mhm.
oftentimes we self-defeat ourselves by not really putting the time and energy that idea warrants, and that idea needs in order to grow. I never saw myself as an entrepreneur, like ever. I always thought, hey, if anything, I would be supporting other people's ideas, and was fine in that. And so when it came down to really having my own vision, I knew that if I wanted it to grow, if I wanted it to actually manifest, I would have to put the full time and energy behind it, um, and give it my all. And so I encourage folks, especially during this time period when there's not the pressure to go out to brunch or the club or the movies, to take some time to yourself, to your own ideas, to your own visions, to your own dreams, and give it some time, give it some water, and watch it grow.
Wow. I, there's nothing I could possibly add to that. I will say that after this is adjourned, we'll share this with your organization, Kisha, and put it right out with our community. And it's been a pleasure speaking with you. And do let us know the result of your blessed event, please, because now I'm on pins and needles.
Will do. And I appreciate your constant connection and friendship, and being able to do the work that you're doing and making it happen. So thank you for letting me be a part of it.
Teamwork. Take care.
All right, take care.
All right, you too. Goodbye.
Bye.